YouTube. It's me, Eric Bauer, and I'm back again. It has been a long fucking time since my last upload. What was that, like November? We're working on 3 months here. Jesus Christ, where does the time go? What a fucked up end of the year. Kind of feeling like I'm back on the right track, so we're gonna get into some shit, as you might have guessed from the title down below. Pickups for January 2022. Boring shit. I've been buying a lot of stuff though, and a portion of it I'm not going to show today. I'm saving that for another topic, and that's the next video, hopefully sooner than the next 3 months. In the meantime, gotta love that fucking nobody did it better in the early 90s, late 80s. Well, some would argue one band did it better. We're going to take a moment and just get into this heavy shit. Let's turn it down just a scotch, just a little teensy bit. I'd hate for this to get flagged and have to redo it, because man, the amount of motivation I've had to really build up for this is kind of ridiculous. Not that I'm, reluctant or bitter to be sitting down and doing this video, because if I was, I wouldn't be sitting here right now in front of this camera talking to you beautiful people out in YouTube land. So yeah, Final Pickups January 2022. I couldn't be bothered to come up with a better topic, and yeah, I alphabetize these. They're not by any real order, and it's some good shit. So we'll just get right into it. First record we're going to talk about, I picked up a couple weeks back from my local shop, one of my favorites. I've mentioned their name before. I'm going to stop doing that because I don't want people going there. You probably already do if you're in my area, but that's gonna be Agrum with their A Hard Day's Night record. I love that album cover. That artwork is just killer. Back of the LP on Play It Again Sam Records. There's the band. Now I don't know if you can get a taste for what this is gonna sound like just based off of that band photo and what they're standing in front of. But if you thought maybe that's industrial, hey, you'd be correct. It is an industrial album. Teal, Play It Again Sam labels. Great label. They put out a lot of, like, I don't know, probably what a lot of people would consider like third tier industrial bands in the 80s into the early 90s. But a lot of the stuff they put out is super good. And this is one of those things. It is just driving industrial music from like 1989, maybe 1990. Let's see if I can get clarification. Inner sleeve, band, somebody, band. Let's see. Agrum, we're from Belgium, Brussels, I believe, and this came out in something just fell from somewhere, and I don't know what it was or where it fell from. Yeah, okay, I can't see an actual year, but I'm going to say 89, maybe 90. It's very agro-industrial, but it avoids the tropes of like a Zoth Omag type band, or like late 90s Metropolis Records, agro EBM, like Suicide Commando. It's not in that vein at all. No, not like Wumpscut or anything along those lines. It's far more poppy and danceable than that, but it's also very cold, very mechanical, very industrial, and just super awesome. These come up pretty frequently, stuff by this band. It's got a lot of output, and it's never expensive. So if you see anything by Agrum, you think, that looks interesting. Well, you're right, it is interesting, and chances are it's cheap, so you should buy it, no question. Now here's another record, released by Play It Again Sam Records, 1987. This is actually a mini LP by Cassandra Complex, or the Cassandra Complex. You got dude on the saxophone here. There's the band. 3 tracks. Something Came Over Me, Angels in the Sky, and Kill Your Children. Just do it. Kill them. You'll be happier for it. Yeah, like I said, 1987. Cassandra Complex were a UK industrial band. I've talked about them before on here. Red Play It Again Sam labels this time around. This is tracks off of a later album that I can't think of the title of it, so that's helpful for you, I'm sure. But it's just really, really great, kind of low-key, industrial. It's kind of got that synth punk sort of vibe that like a lot of the early to mid 80s Cabaret Voltaire did. Agrum is another good point of reference for comparing this band to somebody else. The real like thing that kind of set them aside and gave Cassandra Complex a bit of a unique identity was their incorporation of the saxophone. It's very present on this record, on most of their records in fact. The other album I know that I've shown on here is their double live LP from 85, I want to say, maybe it was 86. Great record as well in its own right. Again, double live LP for second release from a band. It's kind of a ballsy move, but paid off for them. This album is a really good kind of like bookmark for the material that followed that record. It's just great shit. But for me, nothing beats the really early Cassandra Complex. The first few EPs are just stellar, top notch. The next in the alphabet, this is kind of a grail for me. Oh, and I just kicked the camera. There goes my attempts at being super professional. Like I know what I'm doing. This record, I found locally. Again, I think most of these are actually local finds. And I was fucking stoked that they had this. It's been reissued, but this is an original press from 1983 or 84, I believe, of Chris and Cozy's Songs of Love and Lust. First of all, everything about this cover speaks to me. Especially with what I've been listening to lately. This album art is just killer. Back of the record. Now, unlike the reissue, there's no bells and whistles or frilly shit that came inside of this. Just a fucking sick LP full of awesome tunes. Released by Rough Trade. Jesus, that took me a minute. And partnership with Chris and Cozy's own CTI label. Now, if you don't know who Chris and Cozy were, it's Chris Carter and Cozy Fanny Tootie from Throbbing Gristle. And come around 1980, they decided to do a little side project between the two of them. Now you all have different sort of eras there. So you'll have just like regular old Chris and Cozy, and then you'll have like the CTI artists presents Chris and Cozy, which that material differs a lot from what you're going to hear on this record. And again, kind of like that Cassandra Complex, it's very low-key, often super minimal, leaning toward ambient, industrial, with Cozy's vocals over the tracks. And she has a very like kind of Nico sort of delivery, which people will, I know people either love or hate. I'm a big fan. Also reminds me a lot of some SPK out there. Not all SPK, because SPK is a pretty varied project. Who else? Probably innovators that kind of like helped get the ball rolling for projects like Delirium, even Dead Can Dance. And they're gonna come up shortly. This record's just killer. Probably my favorite Chris and Cozy record. I had the CD for a very long time, and saw the vinyl, couldn't pass it up. Highly recommended. Again, like I said, there's a reissue. It's not super expensive. Original presses, not super cheap. So that's my flex for the night. No, that's actually not my flex for the night. I've got a better one. The next thing we're going to talk about, I just mentioned him, Dead Can Dance. I believe Matt from the Dark Path showed this recently, and I got it too, unknowingly that he had also grabbed it. I think Pat from Ground Zero Salem maybe copped this at some point. At any rate, Dead Can Dance, Mosaic. This is a collection of Dead Can Dance demos. You got like 12 tracks on here. It is a very simple, just fold out LP with a black inner sleeve and a very nice LP. Technically, this is considered a bootleg. So if you're opposed to bootlegs, this is not a release for you. Nice fold out. Dig the artwork. Very much what I would expect to see from a Dead Can Dance album. If you're familiar with Dead Can Dance at all, they kind of straddle that line that kind of bridges like industrial with post-punk and like world music. Just really great fucking shit, especially the early stuff. Now, I'm kind of a fan of most eras of Dead Can Dance. You know, again, leaning towards the earlier stuff. This has a lot of the tracks that would appear on early records, but it also has tracks that don't really sound like the Dead Can Dance that I think most people really know about. A lot of this stuff is reminiscent of like the Cramps or Gun Club type shit, or even the This Is Your Bloody Valentine, My Bloody Valentine LP, Birthday Party influences even. It's a great listen. It is demo material, some of it's rough, but awesome. Really worth your time if you're a fan. This was, dare I call it, a grail. This has been on my Discogs want list since I had a Discogs account first set up. I discovered this band during era of my life where I was getting really back into shit like Rudimentary Peni and Zounds and The Fall and UK's Anthrax and Vex, that kind of thing. And I did some deep diving to find more bands that I never discovered in my youth that kind of evoked that same sort of feeling. And this is one of the albums that came up. I listened to it a whole lot when I discovered it, put it on my list. I've never seen it come to the United States through Discogs or eBay or anywhere else. And I finally, this Christmas was like, you know, treat yourself, man. You've had a year. So I snagged it from Greece, where this record's from. And it took a long time to get to me, but finally did last month. And that would be, I believe the band translates to Generation Chaos or Chaos Generation. Again, from Greece. This is an album released by a label whose name I am not going to butcher because my understanding of Greek is rudimentary at best. The only reason I can tell you exactly what that means by saying Chaos Generation or Generation Chaos is because I looked that shit up on Google Translate. I'm not a fucking chump. Cool inner labels on the LP. I love the artwork on this record. Now, It's an original press. It has been reissued, I think, individually and then as a collected album with the second LP that followed this. This is an original. Unfortunately, it did not come with an original of the insert, which was a double-sided poster. However, whoever had this before me must have loved this fucking record, because they took the time to make a full color, very nice copy of the inner poster, as well as what would have been on the flip side of the inner poster, and that is the lyrics. None of which I can read, because again, my understanding of Greek is terrible. As far as what this band sounds like, well, I listed a bunch of bands when I started talking about these guys. And those are all really good points of reference. It's still somewhat rooted in that anarcho-punk sound that a lot of Greek bands were doing around this time. I want to say this came out in like, I don't know, 85, 86, maybe 87. That's pushing it, I think. It's just fucking killer. It's such a good record. Right now, probably my favorite record to listen to for the last several weeks. It's just pushes that death rock sound into that post-punk sound, where you get that like kind of Warsaw worship mixed with like again Zounds, Rudimentary Peni, Omega Tribe, Flux of Pink Indians, like that sort of vibe, with a very gothy sort of feel to it. Now the album that followed this is a bit more metallic. It's a little bit more akin to what bands would do in the 90s, with death rock kind of crossing over into that more metallic sound, sort of like Corpus Delicti style. At any rate, killer addition to the collection. I am super stoked to have this, and it's fucking rad. I can't recommend it enough. I'll try and put a link below. You know, I don't usually do the whole links thing, but maybe I'm feeling generous today. Who knows? Our next record is another local score. I found this a couple weeks back. I boogied over to the record shop after I got off work on a particularly shit day. Had an hour to browse. This was in the new used arrivals. That's the Mission UK with their first record, God's Own Medicine. I've talked about Mission UK before as well. Probably the same time that I talked about the Cassandra Complex. If you're not familiar with the Mission UK, it is a project started by Wayne Hussey and this guy right here, I believe, Craig something or other, from the Sisters of Mercy. Only left the Sisters of Mercy kind of early on, and they started the Mission UK. It says probably their most popular and well-known song, Wasteland, on it. As to whether that's the best cut on here, sometimes I'd say yes, other times I'd say the deeper cuts are actually better, which is to say, this is basically a perfect record. This is kind of the record that I wish Floodland by the Sisters of Mercy had been, instead of the record that it was. Now, I'm a Floodland fan. I know a lot of people talk ill of Floodland or Vision Thing, but I dig both of those records. But I think that the Mission UK took kind of a more creative, dare I say, cavalier approach to the death rock thing than the Sisters of Mercy did when they put this record out. And it did really well commercially, if I remember right. These guys got pretty huge. They put out a bunch of records. I'm really only a fan of like the first 3, 4 is pushing it records from the Mission UK. But it's just fucking great stuff. It's an original press on Mercury Records / Polygram. I'm not gonna show you the Polygram labels. They're boring. Another high recommendation. And we're getting towards the end. Two pieces left. This record is a beast. Shit's a fucking behemoth. Wait a minute. Oh. Woo! Fucking pitch shifter, am I right? Anywho, back on track. Oh, God. It's so good. When it hits your lips, it's so good. Ministry, Burning Inside mini LP, backed with Thieves and Smothered Hope. Now both Burning Inside and Thieves are remixes for this 12-inch release, extended and better. Dare I say better than On the Mind Is a Terrible Thing to Taste. Just massive. The production on this, as with anything Ministry ever put out in the 80s, into the 90s, stellar. The songs on this record sound fucking huge. So much more crucial and immediate than the album versions sounded, in my opinion. This is just a perfect example of why I loved Ministry in the 80s, in the 90s, why I still love that era of Ministry. I don't really go past Psalm 69 when it comes to Ministry. I know Filth Pig's alright, and even stuff post like Dark Side of the Spoon has its fans. The early aughts Ministry, I'm sure, has its share of fans. I just don't go past Psalm 69 because it's just kind of because we cycled after that. Al kind of just lost touch with the scene that I think he helped really ignite and create in the first place. But yeah, just a stellar EP, single. Another one gets my highest recommendation. It's so good. Dare I say, my favorite Ministry material from the 80s. And the last record that I have to show you today is another industrial record. That would be Sick City by Pig, backed with the song Shit for Brains. Now just take in that cover art. If you're going to pick this single up, you have to get it on 12-inch, just to bask in the glory of this mess. And that is what the record sounds like. Got the art on the back is just killer as well. I know a certain guy with a printing press that really ought to take it upon himself to maybe do some short-run shirts of this graphic for Pig right here. Just fucking killer. Shit for Brains. Sick City. Stellar track. Now, if you're not familiar with Pig, let me start over. If you're not familiar with Pig, first of all, how dare you? It's a brainchild of Raymond Watts, who, if you're not familiar with Pig, but you are familiar with industrial music, Raymond, probably most well known for appearing with KMFDM like a lot. I think some people would probably say that a lot of the early Pig stuff had a lot in common with that early KMFDM stuff. Difference for me is that like Pig is a lot more sleaze, a lot more just like vitriol towards religion and Christianity in general. It's a lot of filth, which doesn't mean it's sloppy sounding or a mess. I mean, this is a perfect industrial recording for the time. Of course, it was produced by J.G. Thirlwell from Fotis. Second track, Shit for Brains, was remixed by J.G. Thirlwell. This album is it's so good. And I'll link this below as well. Some of my favorite Pig material and some of his earliest. Anything from him, as far as I've heard, is really great. I've never really heard a Pig album that I didn't like. And yeah, that's all I got. I got another thing in the pipe with more new arrivals from January 2022. Again, like I said, I have a topic that I'm saving those for, which I hope to have the motivation to film later on this week so that I'll have it to upload next week. Now that said, my time has come to an end here. Thank you for coming back and for sitting down and dealing with my babbling ass for 25 minutes. It's been a blast. I always get real reticent to do these, especially after a hiatus like 3 months. But once I'm into that swing. It's cool, man. I dig it. So, that said, thanks a lot, YouTube. Appreciate all the support, all the subscribers, all of the comments and the conversation that we keep going in the comments section below. I love that back and forth. I always try to take the time to respond to anything you have to say, unless you're a Russian bot, in which case you can fuck off. Walk off a pier, walk into traffic, jump off a tall building. A lot of Russian bots on YouTube lately. It's kind of weird, right? Anyhow, I'm going to quit rambling. Don't be shitty, YouTube. Be cool to each other and just take care of yourselves, all right? It's fucking important, man. Keep that sense of self. Peace out.